on duty for the big Eagle FC card in South Florida over the weekend on Friday. Excellent work as always, first of all. But having had a day or two to digest everything, all the excitement, I mean, how much fun did you have at that event?
I had a blast, man, because it was so much fun to be a part of the US debut of Eagle FC because of the people that are involved. Habib Nurmagomedov, Rizvan Magomedov, you have Ali Abdelaziz. Also, you have just wonderful people behind the scenes. Rick Sierra, our producer, Smokey, who handles a lot of the logistics. Rob Caldwell, another guy who has been very instrumental. Alan McGlade from Flex, to be able to bring and come together as a group and sort of watch it from the past few months and really being at the FlexCast Arena. If you haven't been there, March 11th is a major event that we have. Kevin Lee, Diego Sanchez on the FlexCast app. The FlexCast Arena is a wonderful place. Fits about 3 to 350 VIPs only. Very much open to the fighters to give them the best possible resources that they need to be able to compete at the highest level. I was actually there in December where we kind of did a dress rehearsal, and Habib Nurmagomedov came in with Ali and Rizvan as well, and they took a tour of the facility. So, the FlexCast Arena, the locker rooms, and Habib was very big and hands-on as to be like, I want this, or how about we do this? Very much to try to have a facility that the fighters can be comfortable, feel relaxed, but also put them in the best possible position to compete at the highest level. And there's a reason why guys like Tyrone Spong, Sergey Hiratanov, Rashad Evans, Ray Borg, so many talented guys were on Friday night's Eagle FC 44 card. And I think it's only going to continue. And we have good momentum, a lot of viewership all over the world, thousands of new subscribers to the FlexCast app. And I'm pumped to see what the future has to hold for Eagle FC, especially here in the United States.
I take it based on the gear you're wearing here and the excitement in your voice that we've not seen the last of you working with Eagle FC. Obviously, you're on duty for the next card, but this is a long-term thing.
Yeah, I'll be with them this year for sure. I mean, and I hope to be with them, from, as they say in Disney movies, from here, to beyond, you know what I mean? Like moving forward. And, what I like is that we have a very good team, working with the likes of Chael Sonnen and Henry Cejudo, Felicia Spencer, Jen Sturger, Cyrus Fees. I mean, I think that it's a very good group and talented individuals that have done a lot in the world of combat sports. And you bring us all together and we all bring something different to the broadcast. And it's great to be able to learn under the likes of Chael and Cejudo and Felicia and Jen Sturger and the passion that Cyrus Fees has and what he adds to the table as well. So we all clicked, we all got along. It's not like going to work. It's more so being around people that you respect. And I'd even say that I've created friendships with all the people on the broadcast team. And when you like working with each other and being around each other, I think it translates on camera. So I'm very excited for 2022 and beyond with Eagle FC.
Amazing. So safe to assume that you think Habib has a future in fight promotion?
Without question. You know why? Because he has such an eye for talent. Like the thing is about Habib compared to any other MMA promoter in the world that I know of is that he's been there, done that. And I mentioned that during Wednesday's press conference when I asked the likes of Rashad Evans and Tyrone Spong, and even Anthony Njokuani as well, why did you decide to come here? And I go, is it the fact that Habib has been there, done that? And it's not like he's saying, hey, I think you should do this, because he's done that at the highest level possible. And Habib and his entire team, they have such an eye for talent. And if you watch the fights on Friday night, which I thought were very compelling, and the competitive matchups were in front of you. I mean, it wasn't like it was one-sided one way or another. They were competitive fights. So people look at it and say, well, Habib has his own fight team. Yes, but he's not bringing in guys to get destroyed by his fighters. That's not the case. He wants a 50-50 fight. Habib's mentality is, I want the best fighting the best, and I want 50-50 fights. A guy like John Howard fought Ramazan Kurmagomedov, and John Howard was a very tough guy. That was not an easy fight for Rizvan Kurmagomedov, and he got the win. That's a nice step for Kurmagomedov. But John Howard didn't feel disrespected. John Howard came in and had an equal playing field, level playing field. That's all you can ask for. All the fighters were treated the same from what I saw during fight week down in Miami. And I think it's a win-win proposition because, even Rashad, he looked over at Habib and he goes, hey, man, I want to come back for another one. And Habib kind of gave him the nod. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I would
Mhm.
assume so because Habib is bottom line. He likes the show and the production. But at the end of the day, for him, it's about what happens when that cage door shuts. What do
Mhm.
you do as a competitor? Because he's been built from the ground up as a competitor. He does it for the love of the sport. The cameras, the money, all that stuff, that all came later for him. And he did very well financially and dealt with the limelight. But bottom line is, at his heart, at his core, Habib is a fighter. And that's why he's fighter first. And that's why I think that Eagle FC has a lot of potential because of that.
Right. I want to sort of expand on that. I mean, we know Habib can fight. That's very clear. The record says it all. We know now that he can coach, and now it appears that he can promote. I mean, you sort of touched on it there, but what is it about this guy that just makes him successful at everything he touches?
He has a very good team behind him, but also he's very smart. He's paying attention at all times. I had a few conversations with him just kind of briefly, and his attention to detail when he was watching a fight is just like it's watching a master observe what he was so good at because you can pick up on tendencies and you can pick up on traits and say, okay, this guy can do this well, or this guy has this kind of potential. And the fact that Habib managed his career so brilliantly with Ali and everyone around him, he has the formula for success at the highest level. So because he did it, and because a lot of his guys, the guys on his team, are following that same blueprint, there is this recipe for success. The way that I look at it is this: when you watch, I love the NFL, right? So when you look at
Mhm.
guys like Bill Belichick, or you look even college football, Nick Saban, guys that are coaches that are so successful. Why are they so successful? Because they have a system in place that works for them. Habib has a system in place that worked for him throughout his entire career. He still has that system in place for the fighters that he works with that are on his team. That's working for them. So now you take it and you take it a step further and you bring it into the promotional world. And what I love about Eagle is that they're not trying to grow too fast, too soon. How many times have you heard? And I've been around a lot of promotions: boxing,
Mhm.
MMA, kickboxing, professional wrestling, everything in between. And I've been around promotions where people want to come out, they want to make a big, big splash, right? And I'm not talking about current promoters I work with. I'm talking about promoters in the past
Mhm.
that no longer exist. So let me just put it out there because I don't need people to
Right.
speculate, et
Of
cetera, et
course.
cetera. I'm talking about promoters that are no longer in the business. And they came out and they had these grandiose ideas. We're going to do, 20,000 seat arena, 15,000 seat arena. Oh, we're going to do one show a month. We're going to sell out 50 times over again. And that's great to have those aspirations, but you got to grow in a smart manner. And Habib
Mhm.
is saying, you know what? I have a whole facility here in Miami, where their offices at the top, where they have like editing studios, and that's where they have the matchmaker meetings, et cetera, et cetera. The bottom floor is the FlexCast Arena that has, mats, grappling mats. It has, heavy bags. It has facilities that the fighters can use. So with that being said, Habib and Eagle FC, they're growing in the right way. They're saying, okay, let's kind of make this, let's have our own compound. Let's build
Mhm.
here for the first couple years. And then when the demand continues to get more, then we can maybe talk about going on the road. And I'm just speculating at that point.
Mhm.
I know this year all of our fights will be at the FlexCast Arena down in Miami. I like that. It's like, let's grow. Let's, grow gradually. Let's not try to overstep our skis. And, it's the whole mentality. Before you can run, you got to be able to crawl. Before, you can run, again, you got to be able to walk. Then you got to be able to speed walk. Then you can start to run. It takes steps. It's a long game. And that's why I think another reason why, in my estimation, Eagle FC does have a major future. Why I'm so glad to be a part of their first US show, because this is not a fly by night promotion. This is not a fly by night entity. Look at Habib in his career. Look at Ali's reputation in terms of being
Mhm.
able to do what he's done with his stable. Look at what Rizvan Magomedov has done in his career. The people that are with this group have all worked for other entities and have all been wildly successful what they do. So why would all these people leave what they're doing to come here just if it was a 1 or 2 year deal? This has got some major legs, and I'm very pumped to be a part of it from the ground up, and really start at the start of this thing here in the United States.
As we said before the camera started rolling here, you're known as being one of the busiest guys in this business. Eagle FC, certainly not the only organization you're working with these days. You're also working with Triller, which is making a lot of headlines these days.
Mhm.
I just wanted to ask you about them. I mean, what's it been like working with them? What are your thoughts on them and how they've sort of set themselves apart from the rest of the combat sports industry?
I love working for Triller. You know why? Because again, like I'm just very fortunate and blessed to work for so many talented people. Ryan Kavanaugh is always thinking outside the box, and he's put a lot of quality people around him. Thorsten Meyer, the COO, who comes from the boxing world, brilliant guy, and has done a lot in his career and really galvanizes us. You have guys like Nigel Lithgow, who is a legend in American television, just in Hollywood, one of the co-creators of American Idol. So You Think You Can Dance. You have guys like Dave Harmon, who's a wonderful producer, Matt Miller, who came from DAZN. Before that, he was at WWE. You have Brendan Barbosa. Brendan's been fantastic working in the boxing world. A lot of talented behind the scenes people. Bernie Barma's our esteemed publicist. The names that
Mhm.
I mentioned are high level, top of the food chain names in the world of combat sports. You got Bobby Snarnafish from the Triller and the Versus side. And what I love about Triller is that Triller's like, okay, we're going to put on fights, but first and foremost, we want you to be entertained. So that's why we have musical acts. Like we've had a lot of Triller versus battles, and we have the boxing first, then we have the versus battle from a music side. We had 3-6 Mafia, go at it and
Mhm.
stuff like that. I mean, a lot against Bone Thugs and Harmony. You had the Locks and Dipset. That was right after Michael Hunter knocked out Mike Wilson. Theater at Madison Square Garden. The place was going crazy. You had Wyclef and you had, wonderful concerts back at Barclays Center. So we're focused on the fights, but we're also focused on entertainment. Coming up on February 26th, we got our second Triller Triad Combat. And you got Jason Aldean down
Mhm.
there in Houston. The first Triller Triad Combat was insane because you had Kubrat Pulev knocking out Frank Mir. You had Metallica performing, over 22,000 people at Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas. It's this, wonderful range of entertainers because Nick Cannon is hosting, and you have so many different special guests. Then you have people from the fight world that want to be involved. Shannon Briggs, Rampage Jackson as the coaches. Then you have the fighters themselves, and they see these big Hollywood names and these big musical entertainers, and that amps them up. And you merge the crowds. You have the fight fans, and then you have the fans of Metallica. In this case, coming up February 26th, you have fans of Jason Aldean, and they're coming together, and you're giving them something for everybody. So if you're a Jason Aldean fan, you're going to be able to watch the fights and say, man, like, I didn't know about, Joe Schilling, or I didn't know about certain fighters. Like, man, Chad Dawson is a heck of a fighter, and I really wasn't following boxing for so long. But now I want to follow Chad Dawson's career because he looked amazing in Triad Combat. He's fighting Vitor Belfort. Man, I remember Vitor Belfort from back in the day. Dang, he's back in Triad Combat. Let me follow his career moving forward. And then you get to be enjoyed by you get to enjoy the music of Jason Aldean and watch him do his thing. So to me, it's just this wonderful group of entertainment and fights, and we kind of blend them together. And that's what Triller's all about. It's about entertainment for the fans. From the time you tune on our broadcast or you tune into our broadcast to the time it's over, it's nonstop entertainment all the time.
Right, I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, Triller has these big, lavish shows, these star-studded shows, not just big name fighters, but as you said, rappers, Metallica, Jason Aldean, all these people. Now, of course, you're getting more and more used to rubbing shoulders with celebrities and the hotshots of the combat sports world. But are there moments for you where you're sort of looking around and you see, a guy from Metallica here and a UFC legend here and a boxing legend here, where you're just like, this is crazy. I mean, I'm just surrounded by influential people. It must be pretty cool.
It's fun, man, because at the end of the day, like I love being a part of the business, and I'm just a normal guy, and I'm just like, I'll look over at, Michael Buffer. So when Metallica was performing right before the main event, and Metallica's just killing it, like 25-minute set, right before the main event, and we're kind of, I took a little bit of a break, and I'm watching Metallica, and Michael Buffer looks over at me, like Michael Buffer, mind you, like the greatest ring announcer of all time. Nobody will ever come close, and that's that I even
Mhm.
do ring announcing at times. Nobody will ever come close. But Michael Buffer looks over at me and he goes, man, this is really cool, isn't it? I'm like, yeah, this is freaking awesome. Like having moments like that, like having moments where I'm working with Nick Cannon, another guy who is done so much in the world of entertainment and really become just a social star over the past 15 to 20 years. I mean, the guy has done so much over the course of his career. And to have him come into our world of the fight business, but to appreciate it and have respect for it and bring his enthusiasm, I respect that because this is a guy who's done, the Grammys and he's done so many big things, but he has this passion and this enthusiasm for the fight game. And I love that. And I love being able to work with people like the Nick Cannons of the world and the people I work with, Sean Wheelock as well, Boss Rutan, who I grew up watching. Sean Wheelock's another guy that's brilliant handling, being my color commentator. And he's done play-by-play before. It still does play-by-play. And, to be able to bring us all together and to work with one another and to become friends with them because, I like, guys like Nick Cannon, Mario Lopez has been fantastic as well. And learning under Nigel Lithgow, someone that I respect so much. If you are a talent on television and you're fortunate to work with Nigel Lithgow, the things that I've learned working with Nigel in terms of just, helping to kind of guide me and really open my eyes to things and fine tune what I'm doing, it's just unbelievable. But again, it all goes back to the top, and that's Ryan Kavanaugh, because Ryan puts everyone in positions to succeed, and it's up to us to follow through and execute. So it starts with him, and he doesn't overproduce us. They let us be who we are. The one thing Ryan Kavanaugh told me when I did my first Triller show, this was during Jake Paul and Ben Askren out in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta in April last year. And he goes, I want you to be you. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, I want you to be your true, authentic self. Don't give me your TV self. Give me Ray Flores, who you are when you walk down the street, when you're in Chicago, and you're just being who you are. I don't want the TV you. I want you, because that's why we brought you here. I respect that, because here's a guy who wants me to be genuine. He wants all of his talent to be genuine. He wants everybody that works for Triller to be their true self and to bring their best. You got to respect that. And I love it.
I want to jump in and ask you about Jake Paul there, because you just mentioned him. He's obviously taken over the combat sports landscape. You can't go a day without reading a headline about this guy. Still kind of polarizing, though. Not everyone is sold on him. Obviously, you've worked quite closely with him, but what are your thoughts on the way he and his brother Logan have sort of shaken up this industry?
Brilliant. I mean, look, I understand why boxing people a year ago, 2 years ago, were a little like, okay, what are these guys up to? The jury's still out. But at the end of the day, these guys are taking this seriously. I talked with Jay Leon Love, BJ Flores, no relation to me, although we are good friends, his trainer, and he takes it seriously. Jake is in the gym working hard, busting his butt, and trying to get better. And all the other stuff, the extracurricular stuff, because I mentioned the word entertainment. He's an entertainer, and he wants to elicit a reaction. And maybe some of the things that he says, he really does believe, but he gets a reaction. And he's not growing too fast. I mean, the guy's making a lot of money. He's 5-0, and he made $40 million last year. Like, wow. That's insane. Like, beating Ben Askren, beating Tyron Woodley twice. Insane numbers. I mean, my hat's off to him. I give him a tip of the hat because what he's been able to do. I mean, you got to respect his hustle. Now he's got Amanda Serrano, the biggest payday of her career, against Katie Taylor coming up end of April, Madison Square Garden. That's under his promotional company. I mean, good for him for what he's been able to do. And what I like, too, is it's not like Jake is saying, okay, I'm going to fight on these big cards, main event them, and I'm going to have nothing but social media guys underneath me. No, the co-main event saw Amanda Serrano the last time. You saw Montana Love on the card as well. But then you had a couple of former NFL guys, or you had Darren Williams, NBA player, against Frank Gore. So he gives you a little bit of everything. You got to love that. And you got to respect that out of what Jake does. And Logan has got a major, wildly popular podcast. And Jake's focused on the fight business and doing his thing. And you know what? I'm curious to see what happens next for Jake Paul, because you know what? When he fights, he draws attentions. He brings a lot of eyeballs. And I think it's great for the sport. But I don't think because if you watch a Jake Paul fight, you're like, I like what this kid's doing. You're not dismissing the fact that you still want to see the best pound for pound fighters fighting each other. You're not dismissing and saying, oh, well, you know what? Just because I'm following Jake Paul, I can't watch the legends fight. I think that we need to open up our minds a little bit more in the sense of this. There's a room for watching Jake Paul grow, and he's a prospect. He's a prospect. From a boxing standpoint, he's a major draw, one of the biggest stars we have in boxing today. There's no denying that. But from a record standpoint, he's a prospect. There's room to watch a prospect be a main event, but there's also room to watch. Hopefully, we get it, depending on what happens with Spence and your Dennis Ugas coming up in the springtime. When that fight happens, if they fight Terrence Crawford, there's room to see the winner of Spence and Ugas fight Terrence Crawford. That's a pound for pound. That's a top 147-pound unification fight. Then, if Mike Tyson wants to come back and he wants to get in an exhibition against Logan Paul, that's okay too. Or when we saw Mike Tyson fight Roy Jones Jr., there are 3 different ways you can look at, boxing. That's okay. And now we got triad combat, and that's different because that's merging the worlds of boxing and MMA. I think there's room for everybody at the table. When there's 100 college football games on every single Saturday from 11 o'clock Central to about 1 or 2 in the morning Central, Pac-12 After Dark. I love watching Pac-12 After Dark. People love it, and you can't get enough of it. And if you don't want to watch every fight, that's okay. No one's forcing you to watch every fight, but it's out there and it's available for the consumer.
I just wanted to ask you before I let you go, given that you're appearing on our TV screens, every second weekend at this point, for the people, for the people that haven't seen you yet or aren't familiar with you yet, I mean, how long have you known this is what you wanted to do? And I mean, like, how did you get where you are right now?
I'm really fortunate because I've been around the combat sports world since I was 17 years old. So I'm 35 now. I'm going to be 36 this year. And that dates me a little bit. But the reason why I got involved in combat sports, number one, I grew up watching Julio Cesar Chavez, the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, and really following his journey and his plight and what he was able to do and what he meant to Mexican boxing fans and what he meant to Mexicans all over the world was significant. To be able to see him at fights and to talk with him, I mean, it's a surreal moment. So you asked me a couple minutes ago about, is that surreal? Yeah, that's a surreal moment when I can talk to a guy who I looked up to and idolized.
I bet.
And then I got into MMA because of Miguel Torres, a guy who was former WC bantamweight champion of the world, fought the UFC, and he was fighting locally in my hometown. I'm originally from East Chicago, Indiana, and he was fighting locally before he made that step to the WEC, which got merged into the UFC, the 135-pound, 145-pound, 155-pound division. So I was
And
following around.
you two went to high school together, didn't you? Or you went
No,
to the same high school?
he was a little bit older than me, but I was doing public access TV, 16 years old, like local, my high school basketball games and football games, calling play-by-play. When the Ultimate Fighter season 1 happened, he was one of the coaches when Stephan Bonner fought Forrest Griffin. And
Wow.
I saw that and I called him and I'm like, hey, when you have a local fight coming up, we'd love to call your fight. So we talked to the promoter, Monty Cox being that, and then TJ Thompson, if you remember him from Super Bowl when he would fight and hold events on the island, and they were coming to Hammond, Indiana. So I go, we'll show it a week later. So we're not going to cut any of your profits at the gate, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I started doing. From there, I went to Columbia College in Chicago, doing an MMA boxing radio show, interviewing all these local fighters. And Joe Goitia from Total Fight Challenge called me and asked me if I wanted to ring announce. From there, it just kind of built from there, working for Bobby Hitz on the boxing side, Hitz Boxing. And then it's like you meet one person leads to another. I worked with Golden Boy in, the winter of 2011 and doing their solo book sales shows, filling in for Joe Martinez, who's still a very good friend of mine. And then it just kind of built from there, doing undercards. My first big Vegas fight was working undercards of Mayweather Canelo back in September of 2013. And, I did the Mayweather McGregor tour, fortunate to be overseas and go to Japan twice for the World Boxing Super Series, doing Inoue Donaire. So it has been a wonderful journey working with, PBC and Batter Promotions and just so many people that I've been blessed to work with and be around and learn from and grow. And just, every time that I'm a part of the fight business, it's a blessing and I learn something every single day.
Right. Well, it's been awesome to watch your career explode over the last couple of years. I really appreciate the time. Any message for your supporters? Where will they see you next? Where can they find you on social media? All of that.
Oh, I appreciate it, Tom. Well, listen, all you have to do is follow me on social media at SBR Flores. So that's SBR Flores. That's for Sweet Baby Ray. Joe Tessitore gave me that nickname years ago when we were working ESPN Friday Night Fights together. And you know what? I got Big Ten Wrestling coming up this week because I'm a Big Ten Wrestling guy. This is my second season working with the Big Ten Network. I want to thank Mark Holsey, who is my boss over there and really gave me a wonderful opportunity. So I'm going to be calling Big Ten Wrestling on Friday and Saturday. I'll be out in Vegas this week, tomorrow, and doing the main card press conference on Wednesday and the undercard press conference on Thursday for Mario Barrios and Keith One Time Thurman. That pay-per-view will be coming your way on Saturday. Triad Combat for Triller, February 26th. March 11th, I'll be down in Miami for Eagle FC 46. Sometime in March, Triller comes back again. So it's a fun time. I'll also be doing the Big Ten Wrestling Championships the first weekend of March. So I'll be doing the reporting for that. So a lot of things coming my way. Very fortunate, and got to stay in shape, man, because have to have the energy to provide the best possible commentary and analysis.